let's jump over to the contact page here, and let's use the the new properties we've learned, like display and width and padding and margin, to make an attractive form here. So right now our form is kind of looking a little sad. Let's come back in and take advantage of the new things we've learned and style this form here. So I'm going to select all the input areas and all of the text areas, and by default these guys display inline. I'm going to change them to display block. That way they will display one on top of the other, each other, instead of side by side. Let's see what that did there. So if I refresh now, these form fields are one on top of the other, like that. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and tell this guy also to have a width of 100%, just like we did with the table. That way it's going to stretch dynamically, and this will come in handy when we start doing the responsive design, where the tables and the forms and things scaled down on different size devices. So we'll make it a fluid width of 100% there, and we'll add some padding inside of all these elements to 5 pixels. We'll add a margin dash bottom here of 5 pixels. So those are spaced out a bit. And we'll add a box shadow, which adds a drop shadow underneath the element, and we'll say 0 for the horizontal offset, 3 pixels for the vertical offset, 5 pixels for the blur radius, and $CCC for the shadow color, like that. And we'll also add a border around these guys. We'll say there's a border around each side that's 1 pixel solid CCC, just to match the table there. And we'll save that. And let's come back and check this out then. We'll refresh. And that's starting to look cooler. We have the name, email, phone, and message here. And that's all looking pretty good. Okay. Let's see, what else do I want to do here? Well, one thing is that this button, the send button, is also stretching 100%. So I think what I'll do is I'll set a style to specifically select the send button that's not going to style 100%, that'll actually have a fixed width. If we were to jump into that page, just so I can show you on the contact page, if I come down to the contact form here, you'll notice that this input has a type of text, this one has a type of email, this one has a type of telephone, and this is the text area. And I've already styled all these to be 100%. And because I told all inputs to be 100% wide, this button here that says send on it is also styling 100% here. Okay. Now this one has a type of submit, which is uniquely different from these other types of text and email and telephone. So what I can do is I can use a special kind of selector called an attribute selector. And if you'd like to learn more about attribute selectors, you can refer back to the slides for the CSS selectors lecture. So we're going to go back into style.css, and we'll come down here and we'll go ahead and say input, and then we'll put brackets to select only an input with a specific type. So we can say type equals submit. So what this does is it says, hey browser, let's go find an element, an input element. And let's go ahead and only select input elements that have an attribute with the type equal to submit. Okay. And let's add a margin on the top of this by saying margin dash top. And we'll say 5 pixels, and that'll give us a little bit of spacing above the button, so it's not right up against the form inputs. And let's also change the width. So normally the width of inputs is 100%. We only want to make this 100 pixels, so it'll be a smaller fixed amount. And let's set the background color to black and the text color to white. And if I'd like to round the edges of an element, in CSS3 you can use border-radius, and we'll set it to 25 pixels. which will round the corners off and make it look a little bit more like a circular button instead of a square-edged graphic. And we'll go ahead and remove the border. We'll just say border 0 because by default buttons have a border. Okay, so we'll save that and we'll come back and refresh and see what that did to our send button here. Cool, so now our send button looks like that. When we hover over the send button, we want it to change a little so people know that they can click on it. So just in the same way that we created a hover action or a hover style for links, we can do the same thing for input buttons by saying, hey CSS, go and find an input that specifically has an attribute type equal to submit, and then I can use the pseudo class selector hover to say, and when we hover over it, style it in this way. So what I want to do here is just change the background color. That's the only thing I really want to change when we hover over, is instead of black, initially it's black here, we're going to change it to a darker gray color like that. So we'll save, and if I refresh, then if I hover over send, you can see it turns to a lighter color. It'll turn to a lighter color gray there, like that.